Welcome in. Good to see everybody here. Thanks for coming in and looking at us. There's been a lot of talk about UFOs, so today we're going to kind of look at UFOs, UAPs, and what it is. And what started this was recently that President Trump had released a download of information or files on the government's UFOs, UAPs. So it's on a directive. I got this May 9th, 2026, the presidential unsealing of reporting system for UAP encounters, U.S. Department of War. And in response to President Donald J. Trump's directive for transparency on U.S. government information regarding unidentified anomalies, phenomenon, UAP, the Department of War, DOW, with support from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, that's kind of an oxymoron, in overseeing government-wide effort to expeditiously find, review, identify, declassify, and publicly release unresolved UAP-related records and historical documents in the federal government's possession. So they're releasing this information. It goes on further down in the President Obama had made the comment that, and this was from February 15th, 26, Obama, aliens exist, from Israeli News. Former U.S. President Barack Obama appeared on Tyler Cohen's No Lie podcast this week and stated that aliens are real. So are they real, or is there more information that we need to get from what's going on here, or what it is? So what is a UFO UAP? So we need to look at the evidence first. To look at the evidence, it can be of a physical nature, physical evidence that you can pick up and test and experiment with. Testimonial evidence, that's people who speak or saw or said. In criminal investigations, we depend a lot on this. Now, testimonial evidence is best when it is related with physical evidence. Physical evidence is a little harder, although it can be a staged scene. It's a little bit harder to do or to cover up. The evidence needs to be tested and determine whether or not it's valid, and we need to avoid any biases. So this video evidence that we're giving in these files that were released is a video evidence, and the testimonial evidence would be that of the pilots and such that are actually capturing the photographs. So what is a UFO UAP? And this is from the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, which is related on I have a link to it on this if you go in and look at the files and notes. Unidentified anomalous phenomenon means an airborne object that are not immediately identifiable. B, transmedium objectives or devices. C, and submerged objects, this is B, underwater, or devices that are not immediately identifiable. So basically it's something that can't be identified. The UAP is a source of anomalous detections in one or more domains: airborne, seaborne, spaceborne, and transmedium, that are not yet attributed to known actors, meaning that it's unknown persons that may be involved in this, or actors. They use the term actors. This is kind of a legal. So anonymous detection include, but are not limited to, now this is what we used to use in collecting evidence on our search warrants to say that it is not limited to the phenomena that demonstrates apparent capabilities or material that exceed known performance envelopes. A UAP may consist of one or more unidentified anomalies, objects. So meaning that the evidence that they capture may actually show more than one. And this is from May 11th, the AARO homepage. AARO goes on to say about data: no single explanation addresses the majority of UAP reports. We are collecting as much data as possible following the data where it leads and sharing our findings whenever possible, which they haven't done. That's why they were calling for and got this dump of information. We will not rush to conclusions in our analysis. That means they're not going to put out something until the evidence has been tested and verified. In many cases, observed phenomena are classified as unidentified simply because sensors were not able to collect enough information to make possible attributions. So, and then it goes on, different types of objects that are picked up, commonly objects caused frequently reported by UAPs. Airborne clutter includes wind-blown debris and such. So if you have a big whirlwind go by, or it kicks up a bunch of tumbleweeds and stuff, or birds flying, balloons, even technical sensors like radar can misperceive these objects. So, and you see this sometimes where they pick up, and this happened a long time ago, I think it was in the 60s, early 60s, where radar was still new. And then off the coast of San Diego, they picked up a bunch of flock of birds, and they thought it was enemy aircraft coming in, and they actually fired a rocket on them. So it's like, whoops, killed a bunch of birds. It was an accident. So it depends on the person looking at the data, I would say at this point, looking at the radar signatures that you're getting. So commercial or scientific balloons, commercial or military aircraft, unmanned aerial vehicles such as drones, space launches, when they shoot things up into space, a lot of times you'll have ice or things falling off of the launcher. It says stage separations can produce high altitude luminous events, spiral lingering, and sometimes you'll see it. I remember when one of the space shuttles was coming back in when I was in Albuquerque, and it actually broke up, started breaking up over New Mexico, and finally was destroyed over Texas. But we could see the flash of light of it coming in, and we heard the sonic booms. Satellites, they look like stars moving around sometimes, or a star moving. Celestial objects, bright planets such as Venus, Jupiter, Mars. If you look off to the western sky at the horizon right now, you may see one of these Venus. So regarding if any evidence has been found of extraterrestrial technology, the response is no explanation of UAP sightings is ongoing. AARO used a rigorous scientific framework and data-driven approach to better understand UAP. We will follow the science wherever it leads. Now, don't be misled here. This is not the COVID follow the science, which the science was actually not real science, but rather was something that was being said to meet an agenda. So that's another thing we need to consider is on these objects, are there agendas that are being done? So physical evidence. First, we need to look for physical evidence. The United States European submitted a report of unidentified anomalous. This is Exhibit 1. This is actually from the site that they put up with some of the information. This is one of the examples. All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, consisting of 20 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform. Platform means aircraft or station or something. It was military. 2022. So it gives you this. It really didn't give a resolution. It's not really anything new or unique. We keep hearing this is going to be some evidence that's going to be like shocking. It didn't happen. So in other words, it is unresolved. This is an example of the European origin. So some of these are from stations in Europe. Some of these are from our Exhibit 2 that I have is from documented as a summary of statements by 7 U persons employed by the federal government who separately reported observing. So this would be testimonial evidence. And testimonial evidence is better when it has some type of physical evidence. In this case, there was some radar and physical evidence. So testimonial evidence can be a problem because there's influences and factors that come in that would cause the person to possibly give information that may be accurate in his eyes, but may not be accurate. And it's not uncommon sometimes for the testimonial evidence to not really coincide with the physical evidence. So the physical evidence will tell us one thing, but the testimonial evidence, and that's because the person's perspective of when they're seeing or observing or hearing, their sensors in relation to the offense or subject matter that we're looking into. So weather could be an issue, time of day, lighting, all these things come into it. So testimonial, of course, we always think of the Betty and Barney Hills testimonial of them being abducted back in 1961, September 1961. Now, if I recall, there was some physical evidence and the dress involved in that. Another one would be Chairman Gartham, Ranking Member Garcia, distinguishes us from the AARO site. Subcommittees, or I think that's what it is. No, this is from Ryan HOC testimony. It's a testimony of those before the House Committee, and I'm just going to read this so you can get an idea. Chairman Grotham, Ranking Member Garcia, distinguished members of the House Oversight Subcommittee, the National Security, the Border and Foreign Affairs Representatives Burchett and Luna, thank you for holding the first public hearing on UAP to hear from military pilots and whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are people who, in the military, you're really told, don't say anything. Don't. In fact, I remember a sailor that took a selfie on a submarine, and he was charged with putting out classified. So they're real serious about this class. When I was in there, I had a top secret CACO clearance, which means anything that I did or said or saw, I can't repeat even to this day. So the first public hearing on UAP and hear from the military pilots, whistleblowers. My name is Ryan FOBS Graves, and I am a former F-18 pilot with over a decade of service in the U.S. Navy, including 2 deployments, an Operation Enduring Freedom, an Operation Inherent Resolve. Those were activities that took place. I have witnessed advanced UAP on multiple sensor systems firsthand, and I'm here to voice my concerns of countless commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me. I can tell you that advanced UAP are a national security and an aviation safety problem. So these people, whistleblowers, are coming forth saying that this is a national and aeronautical problem. These entities are causing them, or could cause aircraft to have accidents or make maneuvers that are violent in nature, but they're a threat to our air safety. These releases really didn't tell us a whole lot. It didn't give us that smoking gun or we have aliens of Roswell inside the craft. Notice I'm drinking from glass. You don't want to drink from plastic because that's another thing that they put out there. The government made us switch from glass to plastic because it was supposed to be in the commercial industry because it's better for you, but now it turns out there's plastic in everything. They're finding plastic everywhere they look, even from thousands of years, millions of years ago, ice that they've done. And it turns out that the plastic that they're maybe picking up is the containers and such and materials that they're using to collect and pick these up in. So we didn't really get anything back to it. The media, such as television shows, movies, they have their own agendas for it. So these like shows like Ancient Aliens or The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, for example. And I watched the Skinwalker Ranch because it's interesting to see the scientific experimentation that they do and they're finding a lot of sound there, which is interesting to me because remember God spoke everything into existence, and there also appears to be some kind of sound variance involved in a lot of this stuff. So it is subject to artificial intelligence manipulation and a degree of bias from the researchers and research commentators or the commentators on it, but the information may be beneficial. Now, there's a lot of skepticism in this. For example, this is from the Wall Street Journal, June 8th, I collected it. Throws cold water on UFOs Newsmax. So it says the Wall Street Journal threw cold water on any idea of the existence of UFOs, reporting that alien war has been in a disinformation campaign designed to hide rumors of the government's advanced technology from the public. And this is somewhat true. The government, like in Area 51, which they denied being there, or they finally have to say, oh yeah, it's here, because of people who go out and take photographs and see it, and also some whistleblowers or that worked on the actual base, but they don't want you to know about their technology. Now, some of these UFOs that may have been seen may have been advanced aircraft or drones that we have developed in ourselves, but it's going through here, and I'll continue now. According to the journal, the Pentagon had commissioned a program to investigate UFO phenomena and found that the Pentagon itself had been running disinformation campaigns to mislead the public on the existence of UFOs. Can you believe that the government would give us misinformation? This is like propaganda from Soviet or communist nations. But then you have to look at who's running the country today. What about the missing and dead scientists? Are we getting anything on that? We haven't as yet. And that's something that we can look into. But we have like 13 different missing scientists, and I think some of them are from the same two groups, from the same units that they work in. So this could be an area that has come out, and we're not really getting a whole lot of information on, but that the public may not be seeing or hearing the actual truth. In other words, they're not giving us all the information. And we can go to these kind of things. I remember back in April 28, 2015, I don't know if you remember this, it was an exercise called Jade Hill. And Jade Hill brought a lot of people coming forward that there's some kind of government conspiracy going on, there's some kind of government exercise that's going to be hazardous to the people. So this is our governor having to direct Texas State Guard to monitor operations on Jade Helm 15, following discussions aimed at ensuring Texans are fully informed on the Operation Jade Helm. So the thing here is that the government's not even going to tell governors what's going on in their own state. And Abbott met with Major General Gerald Jake Biddy, commander of the Texas State Guard, and directed him to monitor the operations. Governor directed General Biddy to provide regular updates to the governor's office to ensure the Texans' safety, constitutional rights, private property rights, and civil liberties will not be infringed. And is it possible the government would even do something like that? During the 8-week training period in July 2015. Now, I've been through military, both enlisted and as an officer in these training exercises, so I'm kind of familiar with that. It says Abbott's full directive on Betty, according to U.S. military, Operation Jade Helm 15 is a planned military exercise that will be led by the United States Special Operations Command and will include personnel from the U.S. Army Special Forces Command, Green Berets, the Navy SEALs, U.S. Air Force Special Operations Command, Marine Corps Special Operations Command, Marine Expeditionary Unit, the 82nd Airborne Division, and civilian interagency partners. The operation will take place over an 8-week period beginning July 15 in locations across the states of Texas and neighboring states of Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. So this, then I have the site here on it. So why do they need to do it in secret? Why is it covering all this area? They said that they were going out, the military personnel, and seeing if they could interact in the populace and not be recognized. Well, for crying out loud, they're citizens of this country. Why wouldn't they fit in? So was there something else going on? So that's why these things lead to conspiracies and people making all kind of accusations and thinking that something's going on when actually it's not. But when you have the government doing things like this and exercises like this, and they're secret and they're sending it, so people are going to say, oh yeah, they were sending biological altered individuals or entities in to see if they would be recognized, if the people would notice the difference of these biological creatures that are going out. And another thing that is a conspiracy is that they're replacing people with biological creatures that are created with these. Remember, they're taking abductions and they're taking cells and sperm and eggs from people and creating beings on their own. And they need blood for that and things. That's why you see the cattle mutilations and all that kind of things. These are all things that are spread because the government doesn't tell us what's going on. So what does the Bible say? Does the Bible say anything about flying craft or anything like that? And of course, the first thing we do is we think of things like Ezekiel and the crafts there. But let's go to 2 Kings 2. And it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind. Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. So in 2 Kings 2, it's talking about a whirlwind. So what's a whirlwind? So we go to the Hebrew word for sha'ah, or it's 5591 in the Strongs. It's from 5590, a hurricane, storm, tempest, whirlwind. So it's talking about, and this is the craft that Elijah was taking. I have the whole thing here, and I'm not going to go into all of it for time, but further down in 2 Kings 2:11, and it came to pass as they still went on and talked that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. Now we're getting into an actual craft thing. Chariot of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up in the whirlwind into heaven. So Elijah was caught, but there's a chariot of fire that came. So chariot from 7393 is the Strong's, which is from 7392, a vehicle by implication, tram, extent, cavalry by analogy, a rider, the upper millstone, chariot, millstone, multitude, wagon. So the word that's translated that, whenever you're doing interviews and you're gathering testimonial information, the things you need to consider is the background, education, the environment, what this person who's giving you this information, how they're going to relate to it, how does it fit into their socio-economic background, their education, their upbringing, their ethnicity, so many different things. So that's why we try to go back and studying the Bible back to the original languages and what the people were actually, what they would think, what they were seeing, what they were living like. And it goes on that 2 Kings 2:12, and Elijah saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel and the horsemen thereof. Now remember, when they're trying to explain chariots and fires and all that kind of things, they're going to use the vehicles and explanations that they have in their everyday lives. So a craft flying in the air, how are they going to explain it? How are they going to tell somebody else what they saw? So that's what we need to consider. Let's go to Job 38. Job 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, so we see again here whirlwinds. Now whirlwinds, if you've been around in the military or you've watched the rotor prop blast from the rotors will cause wind to throw, jet blast, or even in prop planes, you'll have if there's dirt, dust, you'll see dust and dirt blow up. So how would you explain it? So let's go to Ezekiel. This is one that everybody talks about, Ezekiel 1, chapter 1, and start with verse 4. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire unfolding itself. Now, unfolding itself, that means it's rolling and tumbling. You've seen like a rocket or coming landing, and you'll see the fire come down from the engines that causes the smoke and blast and fire. So it might look like it's unfolding us. And a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, out of the midst of fire. So The color amber here, it can be also, excuse me, highly polished bronze. Highly polished bronze. So let's get down to Ezekiel 1:7. And their feet, let's go back up, okay? Ezekiel 1:4, Ezekiel 1:5. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of four living creatures, and this was the appearance. They had the likeness of a man. The likeness of, they looked like men. And everyone had four faces. Well, that's not a man. And everyone had four wings. Well, this is definitely not a human being. 7, and their feet were straight feet, and the soles of their feet was like the soles of a cat's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. And they had in the hands of a man under their wings and on their four sides, and they four had their faces. So if you can imagine this, then is he describing a craft? Whenever you see the landing gears on, especially in the sci-fi movies, the spacecraft, they have round. So that's why it's divided like a foot of a cow, where it doesn't have feet. It just has a pod that it comes down onto. So Ezekiel 1:9, their wings were joined one to another, and they turned not when they went, and they went every one straight forward. So what he's talking about, these creatures didn't, he's trying to remember man's space and stuff. And then whenever we're going to turn a car, we look in the direction we're going to turn. We're flying aircraft, we're looking in the direction we're going to turn. If we're walking, we look in the direction we're going to turn. But they didn't. They just went. It kind of goes along with some of these videos that we see. Ezekiel 1:10. As for the likeness of their faces, they four had the faces of a man, the face of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left side, and had the face of an eagle. So these are creatures that we know that we can relate to. So those are the faces on it. So what are the faces? I don't know. 11. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upon two wings of every. Have you seen some of the aircraft we have today where the wings come out on certain jet aircraft? And if you're going at a slower speed, the wings will come out forward so that the craft can maneuver better. And then when it goes supersonic or to a faster speed, the wings will actually go back into the aircraft so there's less drag and then go faster. So something to think about. Ezekiel 1:12, and they went every one straight forward. Whither the Spirit was to go, they went. So wherever they wanted to go is where they went. And they turned not the way they went. They didn't look that way. 13, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coal of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. The living creatures, this is 14, ran and returned as the appearance of the flash of lightning. So they went super fast. They were like darting around. Now, as I behold the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creature with the four faces. 16, the appearance of the wheel and their work was like unto the color of beryl, and they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So a wheel within the middle of a wheel. So this is like when you see some of these balances we see on gyro balances. Let's get down to Ezekiel 1:21. When those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood, and when those were lifted up upon the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them. So the wheels came in against them. You ever seen an aircraft that after it takes off and reaches a certain altitude from the ground, the wheels will fold back up into the plane? That's to cut down on the drag so they can get lift, so they can get high altitude and get higher. Let's go down to Ezekiel 1:24. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings. So he could hear the sound of the wings. If you heard the helicopter taking off, you can hear the props. Let's get down to 1:26. And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne as the appearance of a sapphire upon the likeness of the throne, then the likeness appearance of a man above upon it. So he's seeing a throne with a person on it. 27, and I saw as the color of amber. So it keeps talking about these colors, amber and such, and these colors are metallic type colors that he's seeing. So the material that these things are made of are probably some kind of metallic type material. As the appearance of fire round about with them, from the appearance of the lions even upward, and the appearance of his loins even downward, as it were. So he's describing the person. 28, in the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud, that in the day of rain. So it has a rainbow. The appearance of the brightness round about it. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord, and I saw it, and I fell upon my face. And that's a lot of times when people see these kind of supernatural things, they will be overwhelmed with things. So I skip down to Ezekiel 3, chapter 3, verse 13. I heard also the noise of wings of the living creature that touched one of them. So the Bible is telling us we have God and the angels actually will use physical things or what appears to be physical to us, some kind of craft to move around it. Living creatures and touched one another, and the noise of the wheels over against them, and a noise of great rushing. So the noise of the wheels, and when you hear wagon wheels, is what he's thinking of, is a rumble and such that you would hear. 14, so the Spirit lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of the Spirit. So he's trying to figure out, he's trying to explain what he saw. And obviously what he saw was some kind of craft. So we go to Ezekiel 10:5, and the sound of the cherubim's wings was heard even over the outer court. And the voice of it in 10:6, and it came to pass that when he had commanded the man clothed with linen, saying, take fire from between the wheels and from between the cherubims, then he went in and stood beside the wheels. So here again, we're talking about wheels. So they're describing these as wheels. 8, and there appeared in the cherubims the form of a man's hand under their wings. And that verse always makes me think of back in the Old Testament when, who was it, Nebuchadnezzar or somebody, I can't remember exactly what it was, but in Babylon where they had this big party where they were using the temple vestures to have the party in, they're drinking wines and stuff, so they're having like a toga party thing. And during the party, they saw a hand just suddenly appear and start writing on the wall. And that hand was, reaching through a dimension? But the hand was physical. It wrote physically on the wall. Ezekiel 10:9. And when I looked, behold, the 4 wheels by the cherubims, one wheel by one cherubim, and another wheel by another cherubim, and the appearance of the wheels was the color of beryl. 10. And as for their appearance, they had one likeness, as if a wheel had been in the midst of a wheel. 11. And they went upon their 4 sides. They turned not as they went. So again, they keep going over and over again that these things will move, but they don't actually look. The people that he sees inside of them aren't looking where they're going. 12. And their whole, it's kind of like when you see an airplane, and if you're looking through the portholes or the windows of the airplane, and the passenger's sitting in it, and the plane's turning or making maneuvers, you're not actually seeing those people sitting there. You might see the pilot's head move, but the people inside, they don't look because they don't know that the plane's getting ready to turn or whether the craft's going to turn. So back to Ezekiel 10:13. As for the wheels, it was cried unto them in my hearing, O wheel. 14. And every one had 4 faces. Again, these vehicles have what appear to be faces of a cherubim, and the second face with the face of a man, the third face of a lion, the fourth face of an eagle. And the cherubims were lifted up. But now cherubims are not these little pudgy baby looking things with little wings on their backs. Cherubims in the Bible are actually something more than that, even bigger. God sets cherubims to guard things, so there's some kind of entity that can move and do things. 16. And when the cherubims went, the wheels went by them, And when the cherubims lifted up their wings to mount up from the earth, the same wheels also turned not from beside them. So these lift up, and the wheels and the wings all go up. And these stood, and when they were lifted up, these lifted by up themselves. As for the spirit of the living creature in them, let's get down to 19. And the cherubims lifted up their wings and mounted up from the earth in my sight. So these are actually things that God uses. They're actually out there. So we need to be aware of that. Whenever we're looking, we're not necessarily looking at aliens. God created the universe, correct? And I've heard people say that the universe was created and God wouldn't put all this out there unless he put life on other planets. Wrong. That's not what it says. God created the stars and the planets and the lights in the sky for signs of seasons and times and things to come, not for life on other planets. God put those there for a specific reason, for signs for us. What's important to him is this little planet that we're on. So, does this tell us a lot about UFOs and UAPs? It kind of gives us a hint that there's good and there's bad. Obviously, if God has it, Satan tries to copy. So Ephesians 6:10, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, to put on the armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And that darkness always takes me back to Genesis. And remember, Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth, and its period, and then 2, and the earth became without form and void, or the earth was, but the actual better translation became without form. And then it goes on and it says God created the light, but the darkness could not comprehend the light. So comprehension is a state of mind, not just matter, not just dark matter. So this is when God says the dark was there. So this dark obviously were the entities that were in heaven that we see where Satan tried to overthrow in his followers to overthrow heaven. So we go to Isaiah 14:13. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Stars being the angels and beings in heaven. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation and the sides of the north. Now, north is important. Remember, in the Old Testament and such, God's always talking about the north side of the temple, going north from the temple. So Isaiah 14:14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So Satan wants to be like God. Now, Jerusalem is obviously an important place. And that's why Satan is going to return there and try to sit and be God to people on earth. And that's the great deception that's going on. It's not necessarily the government, but it is the darkness of powers, this wrestling with the darkness of the world against the spiritual wickedness. Isaiah 15, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. 18, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. So Satan, when we see these, and this is one of the things that's going to be taking place, one of the events that we have to look forward to is we have to look forward to when Satan's cast out. Now we're going to see UFOs and UAPs, all this kind of stuff in the air and in the water and the ground things. There's good and there's bad, and there's a lot of different kind of explanations we don't have time to get into. But what's going to happen is you're going to see Satan fall to earth. And where's he going to fall? Probably to Jerusalem. So let's go to Revelation 9, verse 1. I saw the star fall from heaven unto earth. So it's talking about Satan. So we have it both in Luke, and we have it in Revelation, sorry. So Mark 13, this is another event that we need to be aware of. When Mark 13, let me find that real quick. We're here. Mark 13. Give me just a second to turn the page. And turn another page. And turn too many pages. Okay, Mark 13. And it goes, but when ye shall see, this is Mark 13:14, but when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not. Now that's Daniel talking about Satan when he comes to earth and he's standing in the holy temple claiming to be God. Then let them that in Judea flee, let them that is in the field not turn back. And it goes, but woe to them. But then it goes on to say about false Christ. And then it goes in 24, but in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. The stars, this is probably Satan being cast down, and his followers. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great glory, power. 27, and then shall he send his angels and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth, the uttermost part of heaven. So when he sends his angels out, they could be in craft. There could be crafts that are going out to all over the world to gather his elect, those who are staying faithful and true and trusting in God. So this is another type of craft, UFO, UAP, that we're going to be seeing, but they're going to be Christ sending his angels out to gather us up. So that's why we need to stay strong and study in God's word and not be too concerned. We need to pay attention to what's going on in the world, in the media, but not be too concerned. Don't let shows like Skinwalker Ranch or Ancient Aliens sway you from your faith in God. He has foretold us all things. So thanks for looking in. If we've helped you, then share and like this so we can possibly help others. And remember, you can go to the website that's listed here under the Ancient Eyes, and you can find the transcript of what was reading off of there. So thanks for coming in. Hope to see you again at the next meeting.